You goat monsters.
Die, Nazis!
He's not a Nazi, GI.
Oh, okay.
What's up, guys? Today we're talking about Creature Commandos. Now, at first, I was a little dicey about watching this show, mostly because DC, as much as I love it, has had kind of a, iffy 50-50 hit or miss type of reputation when it comes to the media that they are throwing out there. But I will say, I was very glad that I gave this show a shot. James Gunn did not disappoint me at all, and I'm very excited to see what he has in store for the future of the DC universe, as well as, another season of Creature Commandos. Now, starting off with the story, right? One of the main reasons I was a little dicey about it in the trailer was because they're using a lot of characters that I haven't really, read too much about or know a lot about, just seen here and there, right? But the whole premise is, Task Force X can no longer use human beings. They can't use metahumans anymore. So they're technically using people who aren't people or human beings by default so that they can kind of skirt around it. Task Force M for monster, all that stuff. The Creature Commandos. And it's being helmed by, Amanda Waller, obviously, and Rick Flag Sr. Now, I'm not huge on the Rick Flag lore, but what I do know is apparently he got a daddy, General Rick Flag Sr., and dude is a DILF. But that's not important. What is important is the recruits, the Creature Commandos. We got the Bride of Frankenstein, Dr. Phosphorus, the Weasel, who they mention was the only survivor from Suicide Squad 2, which they say is pretty much canon, and I think that's interesting. Then they got, so what would I say? Bride of Frankenstein, Dr. Phosphorus, the Weasel, G.I. Robot, and Nina. There's just Nina. I don't know if they call her anything. I keep forgetting, but there's Nina. She's dope. She's there. And then obviously Rick Flag Sr. And the whole premise is, they're being sent to Pokolistan. There's this princess who needs protecting. Cersei, she's typically a Wonder Woman villain, is coming in. She's wrecking shop, and she's got a whole bunch of dudes that are just simping for her at her beck and call. And, especially the first half of the show is literally just, okay, let's protect the princess while also showing what's going on and the origin story of each character. Now, I will say I felt like that kind of slowed the main storyline down a little bit, but it did pace everything out enough so that it actually made me really care about the characters, right? Obviously, we start with, or we get a little insight on Rick Flag Sr. Obviously, he, got Rick Flag Jr. is dead. And he was like, oh, I'm sad about that, but you know what? It is what it is. But then we get into Bride of Frankenstein. Obviously, she was made to be the Bride of Frankenstein. And then there was some not so nice stuff going on, right? Dr. Frankenstein made a bride for his son, Frankenstein. And it talk about, power dynamics and weird relationships. That was definitely one of them, especially because, as dope as I find the Bride of Frankenstein, sir, she is still dead. I mean, at least in a sense of she is made of corpses. That's, just looking. I'm just looking. That's what I'm trying to say. Is if I met the Bride of Frankenstein, I'm like, you're dope. Just looking. I'm just looking. Right? G.I. Robot probably had, for me, the funniest origin story. And it was definitely very sad. Like, there's obviously a huge element of tragedy in every single origin story, right? The Bride of Frankenstein, she kind of, she was made to be somebody's bride. And she was like, yeah, I'm not all about that. He kind of freaks me out. And the entire time, it also mentions, like, Frankenstein's basically a socially inept, like, stalker, like, weirdo, obsessed type. And it goes throughout the whole show. That's like the big thing. With G.I. Robot, he's obviously a robot designed with one purpose in mind, and it's to kill Nazis. And he's kind of like a funny reflection of like what happens when you don't have, like, when your one purpose that, it's almost become, it, at least for G.I. Robot, it is his identity is killing Nazis. And when there's no more Nazis, what do? Right? He goes on being upgraded here and there, and then he kind of ends up at a neo-Nazi, meeting and ends up just Watch the show. It's dope. Then you got Weasel, who's probably one of the more misunderstood characters, definitely the weirdest character by far. And, in the original Suicide Squad 2 movie, they talk about how he killed all these children. Well, it turns out he didn't kill the children. He was saving all these kids from a fire. And because he's a weird little weasel guy, a lot of people thought he was the one who was actually behind everything. But it's not. He's basically like a weird looking weasel guy. It's as simple as it is. But then we get Nina. And for me, it was definitely the most tragic, right? Nina, I wouldn't say the most tragic. But she definitely had one of the more heartbreaking stories because, she was born with a condition where she basically needed to, a machine to breathe, right? Like kind of like a polio type deal. I forgot what they said it was. And, her dad was like, okay, well, I'm going to, experiment on her so that she doesn't need this. And it backfires. And she essentially turns into a fish person, right? Like just being flat out. Turns into a fish person. And her whole life kind of goes, she's bullied, misunderstood, et cetera, et cetera. Eventually, it leads to her running away. She gets discovered. Her dad's like, no, please don't run away again. Like, you're not a mistake. I love you no matter what. And that dude was a stand-up guy, and he dies. So, again, tragedy. Again, misunderstood people, right? Last one, Dr. Phosphorus, who's probably my favorite character because he just doesn't care. He does not give a fuck, and he's going to let you know. He was essentially sponsored by the mob while he was trying to do all these experiments so that he could cure cancer. And when he didn't give them exactly what they wanted, they killed his family, framed him for it, and then threw him in his machine that essentially birthed what would become Dr. Phosphorus. And man, he had one of the more interesting origin stories because he went from okay, I'm going to do my revenge thing, and then he just becomes like a pimped out mob boss. And I'm here for it. If you're going to take revenge, you might as well have some fun doing it, right? And then we get a little sneak peek at my favorite guy, the Batman. But that's neither here nor there. Now, anyways, back to the main story. Now that we covered all their origin stories, right? They're in Pokolistan. At first, they're like, the princess is all over Rick Flag. She's like, ooh, I want a, big American man. All that good stuff. While that's happening, the bride, says, oh, I got some things to do. She tries to bug her off. Nina follows her. They end up at Castle Frankenstein. Cersei finds them there. They have a battle. Things go haywire. And, Rick Flag Sr. and the rest of the Commandos are like, all right, guys, we got to go over there and help them out. They find out, oh, this was all a diversion. That's why Cersei went over here to beat, the bride's ass. They go back. The princess is in danger. The castle that they were staying in is on fire. Everybody's kicking ass. G.I. Robot starts doing his thing, and then he kind of gets murked for a little bit. And then the day is saved, right? That's the first half of the arc. They go back. They find out, oh, the princess is up to some shenanigans, and she's going to be behind essentially the end of the world, right? It goes on deeper from that, but let's just say, because I don't want to get too deep into the story, right? I'll just say how it ends. You know what? No. We're already here. I was about to say we're not going to do it. We're going to do it. All right. So let me straighten out my hat. After they find out that the princess is going to end the world, at least at the word of Cersei, who just got her ass beat, they're like, okay, let's figure this out. Rick Flag says, no, I don't want to kill her because, I got that good from her and she's a nice person. So they're like, okay, Flag, you're not coming with. The Creature Commandos are going to go kill her. The Creature Commandos go in. They get ambushed because, somebody slipped the word. After that, they're essentially split up and they're trying to survive. They manage to overcome the little issues that they had, not together, but they just kind of run into all these dumb, weird issues. And I'm not going to get too into it, but once they kind of team back up again, they try and go kill the princess. At the same time this is happening, Frankenstein and Rick Flag essentially end up teaming up mostly because Frankenstein thinks Rick Flag is trying to hook up with Bride. And it's so funny because he's like just so completely just, it puts me at a loss for words how dumb he actually is. But he's also weirdly intelligent, but he's also just so dumb. And it's so funny. They find out that, you know, one of the experts who was saying Cersei's probably telling the truth is actually Clayface. That basically means everything that they've been told, it's all a conspiracy and they need to go figure it out. But Clayface ends up beating Rick Flag to a pulp. Frankenstein manages to get the jump on him, and then he tries to fly over to Pokolistan, tries to warn the bride. The bride's like, "Get away from me, you stalker," shoots him in the face. The rest of the creature commandos try and go do their thing, and they try and kill the princess. And, oh, God. The next part was like, it wasn't so much sad for me. It was just like, whoa, I didn't think it was going to happen like that. But essentially they send Nina in to kill the princess because she's like swimming in some lake or something. And Nina actually just beats her, or like, no, not Nina, but the princess actually like stabs her to death. And at the same time, all of it's happening, Amanda Waller's figuring out, oh, Rick Flag was doing this because of this conspiracy we've been set up. They get the order to say, stand down, don't kill the princess. And, you know, everything is like, oh, okay, I guess we're at a standstill now. Even though Nina's dead, the princess is traumatized, Bride of Frankenstein's traumatized. Everyone's just like not having a good time. So they regroup at the castle, and Bride of Frankenstein's like, I know what you did. I saw some evidence that clearly points to you being behind all this. So I'm gonna kill you, and she does. And they make a quick walk out before anybody notices, and that's it, right? Rick Flag's still just barely alive. Nina's still apparently dead. GI Robot got a huge big repair, right? But again, I know that was just such a down and dirty explanation, but overall, as much as like the strength of the main story wasn't, I'm not going to say it wasn't strong. I just thought it was like, okay, this is a good enough story to introduce the Creature Commandos. I think the individual origin stories of all these characters was solid work, and I love that. I absolutely love that. I care about every single character that I saw that had an origin story. Because if you would have told me about these guys and I would have known nothing about them, I wouldn't care about the show. But I was genuinely sad when, GI Robot was taken out. I was heartbroken to find out about Nina's past. And I understand why Dr. Phosphorus is an absolute sociopath, right? Like, everything made sense to me, and it made me care about the entire show that much more. Now, that being said, if we're talking visuals, like we always talk visuals, right? I'm just going to say this. Beautiful, right? Not uncanny, unusual type of unusual look for animation for me, but overall, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Also, can I just say, why is every woman in... You guys know. Come on. It's not hard to think. It's like, yo, they didn't have to go so hard designing all these characters, but especially the ladies. Like Bride of Frankenstein, man. Once again, she's still a corpse. Just looking. But anyways, visuals, fantastic. Fight scenes look great. Animation, wonderful. Plus, just to kind of piggyback off both the animation and the story, I love the little cameos here and there of, main DC heroes showing up in the origin stories, but, that's beside the point. Soundtrack, interesting. Like, to me, it was very James Gunn, right? Like, it felt like I was kind of watching, like, Guardians of the Galaxy almost, but not quite, like, poppy in terms of what they're playing, but overall, it was just a fun soundtrack. Like, it wasn't epic by any means in a sense of like, oh, it's making me feel all these things. It just is like, yo, it feels like a party. This is what this show needs to feel like. It needs to feel like a party. So that's dope, and I liked it. But overall, Creature Commandos, right? If we're talking the dope animation, all the cameos, great storytelling, especially in the origins of each character design, I have to give it a solid 8.75, right? I'm not going to give it a 9 quite yet, just because I wish they would have used a couple more big characters, but again, I'm sure season 2 is lining that up, right? Obviously, I want to see them have a run-in with a major character, like a major hero or a major villain besides someone like Cersei, or throw in Clayface a little bit here and there. But again, 8.75, and I think this is a great start for James Gunn. And I hope that the DC universe only continues to blossom, because I'm such a huge Batman fan, such a huge DC fan, that I just want to see them succeed. And I really feel like this could be the first steps to doing that. So if you guys enjoy the video, like, share, and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Plus, it makes me feel really, really nice inside. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful time watching my videos. Once again, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.